You're very welcome back to the stage here at the Agriland tent at the National Ploughing Championships in Screggan in County Offaly. Thankfully, the showers have abated and the crowds are out and about enjoying the sights and everything that is on offer. We've plenty of people here in the Agriland tent as well, joining us for our next panel discussion. And regular viewers of Agriland will be aware that in recent weeks we have been running a series called Farm Safe, Farm Well. That's a series being run in conjunction with AXA Insurance, and it's funded by the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. As part of this series, we're looking at certain aspects of farm safety and offering practical tips and support to farmers to help make their farms safer places to work, live and enjoy. Joining me on the stage today for the final one of our panels here at the National Ploughing Championships is Ger Hartnett. Ger is a Senior Inspector with the Health and Safety Authority. Also, we have Dan Lynam. Dan is a farmer who survived a farm accident, and he's also involved with a very interesting ICSA project, and we'll be talking about that just in a second. And right beside me here is Norma Rohan, and Norma is the co-founder of Embrace Farm, which is a wonderful organisation offering a lot of support to people who have been bereaved as a result of farm accidents, and also people who have suffered serious injuries, and we'll be talking about that in just a few minutes. But firstly, Ger, I don't mean to start the conversation on a negative tone, but the statistics for this year so far, when we look at deaths on our farms, they don't make for pleasant reading. And what do you attribute that to?
So unfortunately, no, it's quite a challenging year. So far this year, there has been 16 farm fatalities. In total, last year there was 12. I suppose for the farming sector, it's been quite a good year, a very active and busy year. So what's causing these type of farm fatalities is the standard falls from heights when maintaining roof sheds. The likes of contact with machinery, PTOs is still an issue, and contact with livestock as well. So they're the main cause of it. And unfortunately this year what we're seeing is older farmers, which we would categorise as those over the age of 65, are disproportionately affected. So 11 of the 16 farm fatalities that have been confirmed this year so far are to farmers over the age of 65 years.
Okay, and look, we might return to older farmers in just a minute. I suppose the main causes, as you said, they're the similar causes that we see year on year, but there's probably certain areas that see spikes in different years, and you know that's something I'm sure the HSA follow keenly, and that's how we target our advice, I would imagine, as well.
Yeah, so we would program our work for the year around the cycle of farming, such as doing inspection campaigns and awareness campaigns around calving season, so the dangers of working near livestock, obviously working near machinery around harvesting time, and then the work at heights in particular around this time of year. So we would urge all farmers, I suppose, coming into the winter, if they plan on doing some maintenance works on sheds, be that cleaning gutters or replacing lights or damaged roof sheets, to get a competent contractor to assist them with, or hire a MUP. So you might have seen our demonstration down there, and we're simulating the fall from height and the consequences of doing the job unsafely on your own.
Yeah. Okay, Dan, I'm going to bring you in here because, you know, we're talking about statistics and figures, but behind all of those statistics and figures are real families and real farmers. Tell us a little bit about yourself first. Where are you farming, Dan?
I'm farming in Castledowngeoghan in County Westmeath, along with my son, Donald, and we are currently running a sizable dairy farm. And I do a good lot of the work at the moment because farm labour is very scarce, and I get called upon. And as Ger said, I am over 65, and I know that I'm not as steady on the feet as I used to be, and that is an issue.
Yeah. And bring us back to 1997, Dan, because back in 1997 you had a very serious accident on your farm.
I did, Aisling. In 1997, our farm was quite a busy place, and we had a full-time employee on the farm, as well as myself, and some part-time workers as well. And the full-time employee was Declan, who came 2 years prior to that on his 3 months apprenticeship course. And he must have liked us because he stayed working with us for 2 years. So he got a new job, and he left on the 10th or 12th of October 1997 to his new job. And he rang me upon the Sunday night before the bank holiday, and he said, I'm not working tomorrow. Do you want me to spread some slurry for you? And I was delighted to hear this. So Declan, being Declan, had a key to our house where he lived for the previous 2 years. He come home from a dance, he let himself in, and he got up early the next morning to go spread some slurry. And as it happened, our own slurry tanker was in use, and he went and he got the end of a slurry tanker. And unfortunately, there was no cover on the PTO. That was nobody's fault, but that's the way it was. So when I got up, I went out to talk to Declan along with my 2 sons, Donald being 12 and David being 9. And as I was walking down to Declan, he was filling the first load of slurry. I sent Donald to open the gate for him down in the field. And David come side by side to me. So I did all the wrong things. I walked up between the tractor and the slurry tanker, and I talked into the tractor to Declan. And he couldn't hear me. So he hopped out of the tractor, and he come roundabout to where I was. Another wrong thing, I had a loose coat on me, and there was a string hanging down from the anorak. So I turned around this direction to talk to Declan, and we were talking away. And the next thing I heard Declan shouting, "Oh, Dan!" And I stood up straight. I could see that the garments was going around the PTO shaft. I stood up straight, thinking I was going to, be stronger than it was, but no chance. So as I was being swung, standing on this side of the tractor and slurry tanker, Declan jumped up on the lift arm of the tractor, and I got swung roundabout. My head was banged against the lift arm, and my head was going between the tractor, the PTO shaft, and the drawbar when he got to turn off the PTO.
Terrifying, Dan.
So,
and tell us, obviously, that's a very, very serious accident, and you were left with serious injuries.
I was left with very serious injuries. I was left in intensive care in Tullamore Hospital, and thanks to Declan, he sent my son to ring for the ambulance, and he had to cut all my garments that were round about my 2 arms. And I was left with no clothes, nothing. This is nothing on me, except for the bottom part of my Wellington upon my left leg.
I'd say you didn't mind, though, because you wanted to get out of there at that point.
I couldn't do anything.
No.
So I was in Tullamore Hospital in intensive care.
Okay. And you recovered, though, Dan, and you managed to get back out onto the farm.
I have a deformed arm all the time, but that's very minor. I have full working order. I had 3 operations upon my right leg. I had an operation upon the back of my skull. And I'm perfect, I think, or almost perfect, thank God.
It's a strange phrase to use, and over the last few weeks, having been out and about speaking to farmers, Dan, and people who've survived farm accidents, but I've asked them very often, do you feel lucky? And a lot of them say they do, and it's a strange thing to say, especially when you had such a journey of recovery and such horrendous injuries.
Yeah, I'm very lucky to be where I am, because I know that there's so many people, as Ger said, that hasn't survived it. Yeah. And a PTO is not something that very few people survive it.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Ger, I'm going to bring you in here. There is a grant available, and currently it is open for farmers to avail of. So if farmers are here at the ploughing, or if they're watching us on the live stream, and if the PTO cover, hopefully it does exist on your farm, but if it's broken, if it's seen better days, there is a grant available. Yeah,
so if they go online to the Department of Agriculture website, they can apply for a grant for the PTO covers. But unfortunately, we are still seeing these type of accidents occurring. And thanks to Dan for telling his story. I'm sure it can't be easy, but it really hits home, the dangers associated with unguarded PTOs.
Yeah. Norma, I'm going to bring you in here because I mentioned Embrace Farm at the start when I was introducing you, and it's a wonderful organisation. Can you tell us a little bit about the background to the organisation and when it was started?
Yeah, Embrace Farm was founded 13 years ago following the death of my own father-in-law on our family farm in County Laois. He was hit by a piece of machinery on his head, and like that he got up and he walked away from it, but within a few hours he went into shock and ended up in Tullamore Hospital again. And The scans, they were sent up to Beaumont and they were reviewed, and the word came back that there wasn't anything that could be done. So the life support that he was on was switched off within 2 days. So I guess that left us kind of reeling in our house, really, you know, because he was a very fit and active 72-year-old man at the time. He was shoveling concrete onto the extension of the house. We were doing it at that time as well. So to see him being taken out of it like that was quite difficult. It was quite difficult for my husband as well, because he felt guilt because he was inside the house with me that day, because we had just brought our first child home from hospital. So Brian wasn't outside the yard with his father, so that weighed heavily on him. So about 2 years later, when we were still going through the grief of what had happened and the shock at what had happened in our farm, we decided to have a remembrance service. And one of the first people we spoke to at the time was the HSA, Ger's predecessor, Pat Griffin, and a number of other people within the farm sector as well. And we set about holding a remembrance service for those who had died, and about doing a roll call of names, because those people that do die, they're more than a statistic. I know Ger has his job and the legislation have their job, but these are people's husbands, fathers, grandparents,
Children.
important people in the community. Yep. And unfortunately, children do die on our farms as well. The year that Liam died, 5 children died on farms that year. And you know, it is other people that come to visit the farm as well, that die as well. So Embrace Farm is there now, and what Embrace Farm does is it provides support to farm families following a sudden death, whether that be a farm accident, a suicide, or a sudden medical death. And we'll walk a journey with farm families, and whether it's counselling supports, group supports, information on succession, information on legal, coroner's inquest, whatever it may be, we're there to help the farm families with that now going forward.
And I know as well, when we mentioned children and younger people as well, you've expanded your services and you're offering a new programme as well, focused on younger members of the farm family too. Can you tell us about that?
We do. I think younger people can be a bit forgotten about when they're grieving, you know, maybe young grandchildren or young children, and how do you support them? And I guess their family knows best how to support them, their mums and the people around them. But in Embrace Farm, we find sometimes the kids can feel a bit isolated, because do they know somebody else that's being killed in a farm accident? And, you know, kids don't like standing out like that either. So we provide residential support, a weekend residential bereavement program, where we're bringing in child art therapy, equine therapy, any of those kind of supports that will help children to process what has happened to them and continue to move forward.
Okay. Ger, working at heights, I suppose, is a big topic at the moment. Animals are going to be coming in soon. There's a lot of people trying to keep animals out as long as possible, as long as the ground will allow. But I suppose we're going to be looking at sheds, shed maintenance. You know, there might be broken lights, there might be gutters that have been damaged as a result of the storms that we were talking about just a while ago in terms of forestry. So what is the advice from the HSA when it comes to working at height safely?
Okay, so first of all, just thanks to Norma for telling her story as well. And I think she makes a great point in that, you know, we talk about statistics and a certain number of people have died in farm accidents, but the reality is that these are people with families that live in a community, have family, etc. So that's a very important point. On the work at height guidance, so we would urge anybody that's here to visit the HSA stand until this afternoon, where we have guidance on working at height. So the most important point really is, if it's not safe, don't do it, okay? Avoid working on your own when working at height, and use maybe a mobile elevated work platform, some type of fall protection measures where you're protected from a fall, or get a contractor to do the work.
Okay, and look, Dan mentioned about older farmers as well, and you alluded to it earlier when we were looking at the statistics, but I know the HSA has advice. You know, none of us are getting any younger, but I think it's rare to come across a retired farmer. And look, Jerry, you're well aware in the HSA that people want to be involved on farm as long as they possibly can. So what's your advice around that?
And that's a very good point. Older farmers, and we classify that as somebody over the age of 65, have invaluable experience and knowledge to contribute to the farming sector. But what we would urge them to understand is that, as you say, none of us are getting any younger, but to adapt the work that they're doing to their age and their physical ability. So the HSA has produced a guidance document around this, and there's some very basic but supportive information there that we'd urge older farmers to take into consideration. And again, it's all about adapting the work to suit your age and ability.
Okay. Dan, I'm going to bring you in here because I know that you're involved in the ICSA, the Life Focus program. Can you just briefly tell us about that? Because we're up against it with time, but I want to make sure that the people at home and the people here in Screggan know about that program.
Life Focus is a small group that was set up within ICSA about 2 years ago, and that all stemmed about Mona O'Donovan, who is Women in Ag, and ICSA is involved in it. And I stood up at a meeting and I told a story, and there was a lot of people stood up that night and told stories as well about what had happened to them on their farms, and a bit about marriage breakup and things like that. And from that, Life Focus was set up to help people, not in opposition to any other group, but just on our own, if people wanted to talk to us. So that's what we're about, helping people in different situations upon modern day farms.
Okay, so to look up ICSA Life Focus.
ICSA Life Focus.
Life Focus, if it's something that you might be interested in. Norma, I suppose when we're talking about the impact of accidents, and mental health and well-being is something that, you know, it goes hand in hand. When we talk about farm safety, it's all-encompassing. And when something devastating happens on farm, the farm has to keep going. And I think that is something that, you know, in maybe other sectors and other walks of life, people don't, you know, get that sometimes. And in your own case, the farm has to keep going, even after a tragedy, when nobody wants to go out and face it.
Yeah, cow, crops and animals don't understand difference of Sunday to Monday. I know in the middle of my father-in-law's funeral, the calf feeder broke down and Brian had to leave the wake and go down and sort out that. So things have to keep happening. I guess no farmer goes out there first thing in the morning not expecting to come back home that evening. You know, it's the last thing in their mind. The first thing on any farmer's mind is going out to tend to their crops and their animals as best as they can, and how they've always known how to do it. They don't expect bad things to happen, but they do. And the consequences are lifelong. For example, some family that we have working with us, Dad died in the accident, and his 9-year-old son was in the tractor at the time of the accident. He's now in his 20s, and he is suffering with his mental health every number of years as he matures into an adult. So, you know, these things don't ever leave you, and they don't ever leave a family. It is a lifelong journey that they have to live with the consequences of that bad thing that happened on their farm. It was a split second where something went wrong or whatever it was, but it stays with the family forevermore.
And I think I had the pleasure to come and visit yourself and Brian at home, and I saw some of the artwork that was done by people who've been left behind. It's the only way I can put it. And I was just moved to tears just looking at the names of people who've lost their lives, but equally the phrases that went with them, you know, sure, go on yourself, or, you know, all of the catchphrases that might be associated with a loved one. And it's important that their memories live on, and that people feel that they can speak about their loved ones, because sometimes people feel that life moves on and they may feel stuck in their grief, you know, and that they don't have that space to talk about it.
Yeah, and life does move on for your extended family and for your neighbours and those in your community. While a person is always remembered, life does move on. But for the widow or the young children left behind, life is forever changed for them. It will never be what it was before. And I suppose in Embrace Farm, what we try and do is bring those people together so that they have some form of outlet once or twice a year that they can try and work on that. And we do that through art therapies, talk therapies, many different therapeutic things that are out there. But mainly it's about connection. And it's about widows meeting other widows, or children meeting other children who've been affected by the same set of circumstances. That can be healing in itself.
And that remembrance service, which is so powerful every year, that I suppose is the impetus and where it all came from, Embrace Farm as well. Yeah. I mean, the connections that are made there, and as you said, people have travelled to that service who may have lost somebody decades ago.
Absolutely, yeah. The last Sunday of June every year, we have that remembrance service. And with the first year we did it, we read out 93 names. This year just passed, we read out 395 names. So the list is growing. families give us the names. We don't put names on there unless a family gives them to us. But yeah, they travel from the Four Corners. We have people remembered on that from, there's a US Marine who was home on holidays in Kerry. He's remembered on it. A guy who worked in a factory in Carlow, but he was building farm machinery. He's remembered on it. Back as far as the 1950s and 1960s. As I say, life is forever changed for families when something bad happens on their farm.
And Ger, I'm going to bring you in here from a HSA point of view when it comes to farmers' health, well-being, their mental state when they're going out onto farm. That's all crucial as well, because if you're not feeling well in yourself, if there's something bothering you, something stressing you out, that is a prime time for an accident to happen as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose it's much more topical discussion in the current climate, but your health and well-being is equally as important as any other aspect of your life. If you want to farm well, you need to farm safely, but be in a good state of mind and fit in your health as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and look, I think, and we said it over the panels over the last 2 days as well, Ger, we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it as well, not going to the GP as often, getting that checkup. I know there's checkups happening here as well, if anybody wants to avail of them, for blood pressure, for anything like that, the regular things. And that may be the first, red flag that there could be something wrong, but that's not necessarily a catastrophe. That could be something that is going to help you in the long term to keep you farming and to keep you well as well.
Yeah, so at our HSA tent there, we have the Irish Heart Foundation also, and they're doing some health checks for anybody that wants to call in. So it's very important for people to keep a check on their health so they can farm safely and farm well.
Okay, and if you go down to the HSA tent, you will find lots more advice when it comes to safety around livestock, of course, and machinery. But that is all we have time for on our panel today. Thank you so much to Dan Lynam, to Ger Hartnett, and to Norma Rohan. And please, a reminder that the Farm Safe, Farm Well series on Agriland is continuing over the coming weeks. You can check out our videos and our articles and our podcasts as part of that series in conjunction with AXA Insurance and funded by the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine on agriland.ie, and the website and app is where you will find it. Now we're going to head back out to see what else has been happening today in Screggan.